breaking news, a stunning reversal for the Trump administration and the impact seen on Wall Street. I'm Colin Mayfield.
And I'm Vanessa Rufus. After days of disastrous stock market nosedives, President Trump is deciding to pause his planned tariffs for most of the countries he had targeted.
The president explaining this afternoon that he made the decision because of the more than 75 other trade partners he levied these tariffs against, decided not to retaliate. China, though, is not on the list. In fact, the president raised the tariff on the country to 125% hours ago. That is effective immediately.
And that announcement caused a remarkable turnaround for markets after the worst three-day stretch in decades. The Dow ending the day up nearly 3,000 points. S&P 500 soaring more than 9%, effectively wiping out the losses after the tariffs were announced.
The president switching his tune today from his aggressive rhetoric towards the nations that he had targeted for these tariffs, which includes China. He says it's making an effort now to come back to the negotiating table.
You know, look, nothing's over yet, but we have a tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. You know, it's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well, and they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal.
The president's decision also coming as he faces more criticism from members of his own party. That includes North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, who is making headlines for demanding answers on the policies. The Republican questioning U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer during a Senate Finance Committee hearing yesterday. Tillis grew visibly frustrated over what he described as the lack of accountability from the Trump administration. He says he feels no one is taking ownership for the decision to impose tariffs on longtime trade partners, and he says that person should be known so they can either be praised or criticized for the outcomes of these decisions.
The other thing in management consulting we like to focus on is this concept of one throat to choke. In other words, when you're finally taking a look at a strategy, someone has to own it. But it just seems like we've decided to begin a trade war on all fronts. And that's okay if the person who thought this through has an answer for why you go after partners that we have a very long storied relationship with. Maybe we give some developing countries a break because we're trying to actually get their economies functioning, make them look to the West versus to Chinese investment. And I understand that you are the trade rep. So if you own this decision, then I'll look to you to figure out if we're going to be successful. If you don't own the decision, I'm just trying to figure out whose throat I get to choke if it's wrong, and who I put up on a platform and thank them for the novel approach that was successful if they're right.
Senator Tillis did respond to the president's pause on the tariffs, calling it the right decision. He said he agreed with the idea of holding China accountable.